All right, let's dive in. We've got quite the combo today. Richard Dawkins, The Magic of Reality, all about the science of the natural world, and the law of one, offering a, well, more metaphysical perspective.
A fascinating pairing for sure. Dawkins is rooted in hard evidence, what we can see and measure, while the law of one is more about vibrations, densities, spiritual evolution.
Yeah, it's a bit like apples and oranges, but that's what makes these deep dives so interesting. Like, Dawkins explains how those Galapagos land iguanas evolved into three different species in a few thousand years just because they got separated by geography.
Isolation driving change, classic example. And, the law of one talks about evolution too, but more like spiritual evolution. Fourth density beings arising from third density types through, how do they put it, bisexual reproduction.
Hold on, so physical evolution in Dawkins, spiritual in the law of one. Could there be a connection? Like those gradual changes Dawkins talks about, are they mirrored somehow in this spiritual evolution idea?
It's a question worth pondering, isn't it? Maybe both are about adaptation and transformation over time, just on different scales.
Okay, let's see if we can find more of these echoes. Dawkins dives deep into atoms, the building blocks of everything, different elements, just different combinations of these tiny particles. Then he goes into the Big Bang, the scientific explanation for how the universe began.
And what's amazing is that astronomers can actually trace the universe expanding back to that very beginning. Redshift, the spectroscope, it's like they're looking back in time.
And guess what? The law of one also describes the universe starting from a single point and expanding outwards. They even talk about true colors representing different densities of existence.
And get this, the law of one links those colors to vibrations, energy levels. Makes you wonder, could they relate to the frequencies physicists study, the ones behind light, gravity, all the fundamental forces? Could there be a correlation there?
Okay, now we're getting into some mind-bending territory. Let's shift gears a bit and talk about wanderers. This is a law of one concept, beings from higher densities choosing to incarnate on Earth to, help us evolve spiritually.
Compelling idea, right? They go through this forgetting process, losing their true nature and origins, taking a huge risk, diving into our dense, confusing world.
Which is interesting because Dawkins talks about the vastness of the universe, the possibility of life on other planets. He even mentions SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence.
So you have the scientific drive to explore the cosmos, and these wanderers choosing to come here could both stem from the same impulse. That curiosity, the desire to connect, to understand the unknown.
It's definitely a thought-provoking link. Now, another thing that pops up in both sources is healing. The law of one goes into healing energy chakras, those energy centers, blockages causing illness, that kind of thing.
And they highlight the pyramid shape as a powerful tool for focusing that energy. Pyramids in ancient Egypt used for healing, they suggest.
Dawkins doesn't go into pyramids or chakras, but he does stress how our understanding of the natural world keeps evolving. He hints that ancient civilizations might have had knowledge and tech we're only now rediscovering.
Raises an interesting question. Could there be a scientific basis for those healing properties of pyramids that we just don't grasp yet? A bridge between ancient wisdom and modern science, perhaps. Back again for more. We've been finding some really cool links between Dawkins, the magic of reality, and the law of one, right? Like, who'd have thought a scientist and a channeled message would have so much in common?
Right. It's surprising. But, one thing that really jumps out from both is this sense of awe, of wonder. Dawkins, the way he describes nature, it makes you want to understand how it all works.
Totally. Like, he's reminding us of how amazing the universe is. From tiny little evolutionary tricks to the hugeness of space. It's that childlike wonder we all had, looking at the stars and asking a million questions.
And the law of one, with its whole metaphysical angle, adds another layer to that wonder, right? The idea that we're all connected, part of something bigger, woven together by energy, by consciousness.
It's humbling, but it's also kind of empowering, Like you're this tiny piece of something vast, but your existence still matters. It's all linked.
And it's funny, that connection idea reminds me of Dawkins talking about the origin of life, how everything alive on Earth came from one ancestor billions of years ago.
Oh, yeah. Those first molecules that could copy themselves were all distant cousins on this crazy journey from single cells to, well, us thinking about where we came from. And that ties in with the law of one talking about unity, everything coming from the same source.
So maybe even though they're coming from different places, both sources are saying we're all connected somehow. That's a pretty big idea when you think about it.
For sure. And it makes me think of another parallel. Dawkins, when he talks about the universe, he likes simple explanations. The simplest one is usually the best, he says.
Like that Occam's razor thing, right? Don't make things more complicated than they have to be.
Exactly. And the law of one, in its own way, seems to agree. Seeking simplicity, clarity, stripping away the clutter to get to the core truths.
So they both kind of encourage us to be smart about it, right? Look for patterns, connections, but don't get lost in overly complex explanations.
Great point. That's helpful whether we're trying to understand the universe or just our own lives. Simplifying, focusing on what truly matters.
Totally agree. Now, let's talk about time. It's something both sources tackle, but in such different ways. Dawkins, coming from science, he sees time as a line, right? Past, present, future.
Yeah, and he describes how scientists can actually figure out the history of Earth, the universe, radiometric dating, analyzing layers of rock. It's like they're putting together this giant timeline of cosmic evolution.
Amazing. But the law of one, they have this way more fluid idea about time. They say time, how we experience it, is kind of an illusion.
Well, they say it's a dimension, but one that's more flexible than our linear way of thinking allows. True simultaneity, they call it. Like all moments, past, present, future, they all exist at the same time.
Okay, now that's a mind bender. But if that's true, what does it mean? Like, can we access other points in time somehow?
That's what they suggest. Tapping into past life memories, exploring future possibilities, even influencing events with our thoughts.
Wow, that's getting pretty out there. But it does connect to reincarnation, which the Law of One talks about a lot. We keep coming back, learning, growing, getting closer to understanding the universe and ourselves.
Right, this grand cosmic school trip, each lifetime offering unique lessons. And even though Dawkins doesn't say much about reincarnation specifically, he does say that consciousness might exist outside the body. He even mentions near-death experiences.
So there's some overlap there, being open to what we don't fully understand about consciousness. Okay, so we've got interconnectedness, this different view of time, hints of something beyond death. What else do both sources touch on?
Well, both the magic of reality and the law of one talk about the nature of reality itself, just from very different angles. Dawkins, being a scientist, he's all about evidence, the scientific method.
Observation, experiments, testing your ideas. Don't take things at face value. Question, look for proof. That's his thing, right?
And the law of one, even though it's more metaphysical, it also says we need to be discerning, think critically, don't just believe anything blindly, question, explore, find your own truth.
So even though the Law of One is based on this channeled message, it's not about blind faith. Use your intuition, your reason, figure out what rings true for you.
Exactly. And that's so important today, right? We're flooded with information. We need to figure out what's reliable, what's not.
Like we need to be information detectives, using our brains to sift through everything. Which brings us to another big idea, purpose. Dawkins, looking at evolution, would probably say the main purpose of life is survival and reproduction, passing on your genes.
Yep, survival of the fittest, making sure your DNA continues. He describes how natural selection favors those who are best adapted to their environment, leading to more and more complex life forms.
But the Law of One has a different take. It says the real purpose is spiritual evolution, the soul's journey towards understanding, love, wisdom.
And that idea is woven into all their teachings. Cultivating compassion, forgiveness, helping others, these are seen as pathways to spiritual growth.
So it's not just about surviving physically, it's about evolving in the spiritual realm, expanding your capacity for love, for wisdom, a very different way of thinking about purpose.
Definitely. And it raises some big questions. How do we reconcile these two ideas about purpose? Do they both play a part in our lives? These are the kinds of questions we'll explore further as we move into the final part of our deep dive.
I'm ready for more. What other fascinating connections are waiting for us? All right, final part of our deep dive. We've come a long way, exploring the magic of reality and the Law of One. Evolution, the universe, consciousness, even time. Now we're tackling some really big questions, the kind that have kept philosophers and theologians busy for centuries.
You got it. Good and evil, free will, the meaning of existence. Big topics, and it's fascinating to see how Dawkins and the Law of One approach them.
Okay, let's start with good versus evil. The Law of One has this unique perspective, saying there's no real duality, no separation between the two. It's all part of the same cosmic dance, like light and shadow.
Yeah, and I don't condemn negative actions or entities. It's all part of creation, contributing to soul evolution somehow. Even what we might call evil is seen as part of this cosmic drama, an opportunity to learn and grow.
So even those who, well, choose a negative path, they're still playing a role in this evolution. That's hard to wrap your head around, especially with all the suffering and injustice in the world. How can everything be for the good when there's so much darkness?
It's a tough question. The Law of One suggests that from a higher perspective, one that goes beyond our limited human view, even the darkest things can be catalysts for growth. For individuals and for everyone. They offer chances to learn compassion, forgiveness, to balance things out in the end.
So it's about seeing the bigger picture, understanding that even the bad stuff can be part of our evolution. Which makes me think about free will. Dawkins, as a scientist, he says we have this capacity for choice, to think about our actions and make decisions based on morality.
And the law of one takes it further, saying free will is crucial for our spiritual evolution. It's through those choices, good or bad, that we learn, we grow, we understand ourselves and the universe better. Every decision, no matter what the outcome is, shapes our soul's journey.
So even though our genes, how we were raised, our circumstances, all that influences us, we still have the power to choose, to decide how we react, to shape our own destiny, at least to some extent. And both sources, even with their different views, seem to agree on that. Which brings us to the ultimate question. What's the meaning of life? Dawkins, he'd probably say there isn't one, right? Life just is, a result of natural processes over billions of years.
Pretty much. He's in awe of the universe, but he doesn't see it as having some predetermined plan. The fact that life exists, that it evolved to this point, that's enough, he seems to say.
But the law of one has a different take, right? They say the meaning is in this journey of spiritual evolution. Learning, growing, getting closer to the source of creation.
That's it. It's not about reaching some specific goal, but about the journey itself, expanding your consciousness, understanding more deeply, experiencing love and unity.
So we have these two contrasting ideas. Life is a cosmic accident versus life is a purposeful spiritual journey. How do we make sense of that? What's the takeaway for us?
Maybe it's about embracing both. We can appreciate the natural world, how science explains it, but also be open to this deeper spiritual side of things, holding both in mind, letting them inform each other.
I like that. Integrating the rational and the intuitive, what we can see and what we can't. Maybe the lesson is to approach life with a curious mind and an open heart. Questioning things, but also being open to the mystery.
You got it. The magic of reality and the law of one, they both tell us to never stop learning, never stop growing, and to never lose that sense of wonder about the universe.
Well, that's it for our deep dive into the magic of reality and the law of one. Quite a ride, right? Full of surprises and thought-provoking moments. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling inspired to keep exploring, keep asking questions.
And that's what it's all about. Until next time, keep diving deep, everyone.